You are exactly the subject I've been looking for. Yes, you look perfect, and I'd really love to just jump in on documentation here. So let me grab, let's see, here we are. I'd like to start with some measurements. So, how did we manage to wrangle you in here? Good. We like to see our subjects getting adequate compensation. You may just hear me on occasion. On occasion, writing notes. There is going to be quite a bit of documentation here. There. Good. And we are going to be doing quite a few tests in our time together here. So, let's see, I just want to, I'm going to come right here, the top of the head. If you could just stay still for me. Come right here. There. And top of the head. There. Let's see, we've just got so much to do here. Really, I've been waiting quite a long time for someone of your caliber to come into my workspace. Let's see. Again, if I could have you just be very still. And I'm just going to come around just like that. Good. And what about right in here? I'm just going to take a few measurements right off the top here before I jot them down. Good. So let's see, any other circumference. The circumference, as well as the length. And then we had, there we are, excellent. Now, I am going to bring out another tool we'll use in conjunction with our measuring tape here. And this is going to get some of the finer details. So I'm going to open the caliper. And these little bits right here, they can be quite pointy, so I'm going to be extra careful with you here. I do ask that you stay very still, and I'm not going to keep the points directly on the skin, but instead perpendicular. There. Good. And what is our measurement there? So we want, let's go ahead and line that up there. Oh, just the tiniest little titch above 1 inch. Okay, then 1 1/16 there. Excellent. So now let's see. Where are we? Right here. Okay. Need to open this up a bit. And what about right there? A little bit more. Perfect. So from outer nair to outer nair. Let's just line that up there. Okay. Ooh. There we go. Lock it in place. That'll be a lot easier. Interesting. Good. Now we're gonna have to open this a lot wider here. Right. Now, just stay still here. No, that's not quite what we wanted. What about this? Yes, just about. Just about. Now, I assure you that this is not all measuring. We've got one other tool. Let's see, 2 1/4. We've got one more measuring tool. And then we have quite a few other things to do with you. What did we say? 2 1/4. All right, and I just want to get one more. We're going to bring this back in. Perfect. Let's see how this. Nope. More. Just like this. A little bit more. What about? There we are. What do we have here? Okay, so that is 1 3/8. And we'll just put that back. So we have 1 3/8. Good. So our next measuring tool is a little more versatile in that it is more dynamic rather than static. So we'll put that back. We'll get our 2. Our 2. So this tool is called a goniometer. And a goniometer has a regular ruler here. We can even expand it to go all the way this way. But it also measures angles, and we can move it around like so. And these come in a variety of different sizes because oftentimes these are used to measure joint angles. For example, I could put this guy right at the knee, and we'd be able to measure how far the knee can go in and out with the leg. But we can get as small as measuring the wrists, the fingers. But today my other goniometer is just this size. But you can also use this as a little helping hand for determining symmetry, of which I'd like to do here. Good. So, at the midline there, the eyeline, and I'm going to use the bigger one for tops of the ears. Yes. Very good. So we're just going to check our symmetries. And just look around a bit. Good. Right about there. Okay. You see the shoulders, the hips here. I'm going to need to expand that out. Good. Elbows. So everything for the most part is on a symmetrical plane. Good. Yes. So, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to see your arm here. And we will just match this up with the elbow. So, I am going to place this right here. And I'm just going to have you bend the elbow all the way. Yep, all the way down. What's our angle there? Good. And come all the way up. Very good. And the other side. Just going to line this up with the humerus, the elbow, and the lower arm here. So all the way down. Good. And then all the way up. Those are equal and within normal limits as well. And for the wrist here, I'll use this one. So if I could have your hand, we're going to match this up with the lower arm here. And this is where the wrist is. So if we could go all the way down, all the way up. Other side. Okay, all the way down, all the way up. Yes. Normal mobility there, and quite symmetrical. Let's just put our elbow angles and the wrist angles and above here. There. Now, that's just the measuring. I'm going to now get a good look at you. And this might be a bit uncomfortable, as I'd like to get rather close, rather up close. See the bits of texture and any little minute changes. But at this distance, it's making me go double visioned, actually. So perhaps it's more prudent instead to employ a magnifying glass. But before we get in depth, we should get a macro view. Let me get my light. And I'm going to suggest that you don't look into the light. It is a bit bright, but it shouldn't hurt your eyes if you do. And we're just going to take a little peek around and just thoroughly inspect what you've got going on here. Just looking here. Okay. Good. And everything else, I want everything to be illuminated and inspected and categorized. I want to leave no stone unturned, which is why we're doing all of this in one fell swoop. Now, I am going to ask you at this point if you could look into the light so that we can inspect the eyes. Good. Just wherever that light comes in, just go ahead and take a peek at it. Good. Yes. Good. You know, when I came into work today, I did not think that I would have such a special surprise for me to work with. So, you've made my day, truly. It is an honor truly is. And you can go ahead and relax the eyes. You don't have to look at my light anymore. Just gonna do a little peek around here. And then we'll focus in a bit tighter. Bit tighter. Good. So, I have another little light, but there's a bit of a difference here. We are using different colors here, and sometimes you can see different changes in features when they are lit differently. There are the blues, green. So I'm just going to trace over your features while each color gently changes and transitions so that we can get a good look at everything here. I just have this little bit of light, so it keeps me from looking at the big picture, but instead at these little bits here. Good. Good. And then we just bring that. Okay. Yes. And just bring that over here. Good. Now we're going to bring this in real close, and I'm going to look at each eye and how it responds to the different lights. And can you see that there are quite a few colors? You don't have any color blindness. Yes, there's reds and blues and greens, orange, pink, purple, cool white, warm white. Good. Yes, that looks quite adequate. So, this is where we bring this in. Now, I am going to be moving this around your body, primarily your face. That's more what I am interested in. And see, I want to tell you something a little interesting. You might find this interesting. So, believe it or not, Homo sapiens, the species, we've been around for about 300,000 years-ish. And we're one of the shorter-lived species, actually, but we are incredibly different from other types of human. For example, we are the only type of human with a globular brain case, a tall cranial vault here, nice big forehead. So, we are the only type of human that really could wear a standard baseball cap, because other types of human, they generally had low and long skulls, so they come back a lot farther and they're much lower. But we're the only one that has that globular type head, and our faces are very different as well. We do have a somewhat smaller face compared to, for example, a Neanderthal, possibly Denisovan. We need to do a little bit more work on that, as we've only just confirmed that we have Denisovan crania for a while there up until last year. We only had the Denisova remains, teeth, bit of finger bone. We had the Jahi mandible. And most famously, we now have the Dragon Man skull as our Denisovan. So a lot of those East Asian archaics that were a big question mark for a long time are now Denisovan specimens. But that's a bit off topic. So, Homo sapiens, bit of a smaller face, but we have a very flat face. And in other types of Homo sapien, or in other types of Homo rather, not Homo sapiens, in other types of Homo, they're more prognostic, although from Homo habilis all the way down to us, we get less and less prognostic, which basically means snouty. Instead of being flat like this, the faces slant. They slant downward like this, and they're more basal, more ape-like, but over time, they get flatter. And we see this also in one other type of human species, and it's a short-lived guy that we don't know a whole lot about, because I believe the remains were mostly found in Spain, if I'm correct. If I remember correctly. It's called Homo antecessor. Homo antecessor is the first time we really see a face that looks like us. But it's a very old one, so we're not really sure where that came from, because it doesn't show up again until us. But yes, like our Neanderthal cousins, our Denisovan cousins, a little more prognostic here. I'm just going to go over with a magnifying glass, and we're just going to do a little scan of everything. But yes, the human genus is incredibly fascinating, and Homo sapiens, by many metrics, really somehow just kind of were by far and away very different than other types of human species. And it's in the little things, like we were more resistant to lead poisoning than other types of human, like Neanderthals. And lead poisoning was very common. And it causes significant cognitive issues. And I just read an article today. It was originally published in 2024, but was updated. With some more information, and they re-released it today. that our human species, Homo sapiens, likely thought faster than Neanderthals, and we had more of a capacity for language. They could speak, they had their own language, but they could not make as many sounds as we could. And it's in little things like disease resistance in the gene flow from Neanderthals, because there is Neanderthal DNA in us. We did interbreed with Neanderthals quite a bit. We picked up immune system genes from them, so we were able to be stronger in that way as well. Okay. Just gonna go down the legs. So it's all these tiny little bits. I mean, Neanderthals were incredibly intelligent. They had bigger brains than we did, but that came at a metabolic cost. It meant that they had to eat a lot more than we did. They had a higher caloric need than we did. And brain size is not necessarily indicative of intelligence on its own. A big part of it is brain organization. And we see that, for example, in our very small human species relatives, like Homo naledi and Homo luzonensis and Homo floresiensis, in which they were around at the same time that we were, much smaller brains, but they still were very suited to their environment. They created quite a bit of tools. Brain size is not necessarily the ticket, but just a piece of the puzzle. So it was all just these little things. Homo sapiens could breed more readily than Neanderthals could. Neanderthals, unfortunately, had low genetic diversity, and their biggest population of all of them on Earth at one time was probably no more than 10,000. They had small groups, probably 20 individuals, adults, whereas Homo sapiens had much larger groups. So, I'm just going to take a listen to your heart here. Just going to have a little listen here. So really it was just this kind of ticking away at them with these little advantages. And I like to think that in terms of late surviving Homo erectus, of Denisovans, of Homo neanderthalensis, that they didn't die out exactly, but that they were subsumed into Homo sapiens. Now, I'm going to have you take a deep breath here and out. Deep breath in and out. Deep breath in and out. Deep breath in and out. Deep breath in, out. Deep breath in, out. Now, if you want something that will really blow your mind, dear, I'm just going to have you breathe normally. something that'll really blow your mind. So, in our genome, we have it all mapped out, right? That's how we found out that we have anywhere from, generally it's 2 to 4% Neanderthal DNA, and some populations of human have up to 4 to 6% of Denisovan DNA. There are gaps in our genome. This is where the concept of ghost lineages or ghost populations come in. Because we have genes from humans that we have not yet discovered who they are. Now, personally, I think there's a good chance that a lot of it is from Homo erectus. That one. You want to talk about a survivor, that's Homo erectus. They lived so long, it really was quite ridiculous, laughable even, just completely defied the odds. But we have gaps in our DNA where we don't know. We don't know what species it came from. So I hope that in the future here, we have Denisovan DNA, we have Neanderthal. I'd love to see us sequence the Homo erectus genome. And I bet a big part of it comes from there. But there may be species we haven't even found yet, or we just haven't classified them yet. Just keep breathing normally here. We've learned so much. In even just the last 50 years. I mean, the human genome was sequenced in, 2010? And we just put a face to Denisovans last year. And I'm really waiting for postcranial remains to be attributed to Homo rudolfensis. It's gonna be a real fun one. We already have, I think it's number 4. Just found our 4th postcranial remains of Homo habilis. There were just 3, and this is the most complete skeleton that we have of Homo habilis. So, let's do some jotting down here, and then the very last thing we're going to do. Very last thing. We are going to take some samples. And we've got a variety that we need to do. So I have some cotton buds. I have a nice big specimen stick. I have some scissors. And we're going to take some specimens here. So I would like to start with some hair, if you don't mind. I don't need that much. It's not going to be taking out a huge chunk. It's just going to be doing a few snips here. So if I could just get the bottom of the hair here, and where's our, there we are. Okay, so we're just gonna do good to the back. It might might seem like I'm taking a lot, but it's a lot of little bits all over so that it doesn't look any different. Yes, I hope that in my lifetime the muddle in the middle to late Pleistocene is not necessarily solved, but is more illuminated. I would like to see if Homo heidelbergensis ends up being a big group or if it gets split up. Let's see, so, okay. We are going to take a skin sample here. So I'm going to rough you up a little bit right here. We're just going to keep going until we get a good amount of skin cells on the stick. But yeah, just in the last year alone, there's been an explosion of findings. Okay, that should be enough, so put that in there. And we're going to need to do some swabbing here, so I am going to have you open your mouth and we're going to swab around, okay? We're going to really get this all covered here. But yeah, I'd like to see more remains of Sahelanthropus discovered. I would like to see more specimens of Homo naledi, not just the ones in the Rising Star Cave System of South Africa. I'd like to see more evidence of Homo erectus where Homo floresiensis and Homo luzonensis have been found. Okay. And lastly, I'm going to need a bit of saliva. So if you could just stick out your tongue, and we're just going to gather that up, and that's going straight in our little specimen bag. There. And yes, the one I hope for the most, postcranial remains of Homo rudolfensis, because that one's just a very odd duck, and we need more to be able to parse out, did it come from Homo habilis rather, or did it evolve on its own? Was it something more like Homo habilis and Homo rudolfensis rather than Homo habilis and Homo rudolfensis? And is it even on our evolutionary line? I don't know that there's a lot of evidence that supports that, but we don't know. So I'd like to see that in my lifetime. Now we got our skin specimen and our cheek with the swabbing, saliva with our specimen stick, and hair that's in our little specimen bag. I think that for this particular session, this is all that I need from you currently, but I would love to see you back in my workspace again. It's been an absolute pleasure. studying you. And I think we'll get quite a bit of information from you. So I'd like to thank you so much for allowing me to poke and prod and take samples from you. I hope you have a